we've got more updates on just what happened to the ruby slippers after they were stolen from the Judy Garland Museum back in 2005. And what the fate of the slippers will be after the FBI is done with them. Hello fellow Aussians, and welcome to the channel. Today we've got a couple different articles to look at talking about those stolen ruby slippers. The first and the biggest news out of the whole thing is that we have yet another man that has been charged with the theft of the slippers. Second man charged in theft of Judy Garland's ruby slippers. The man, Jerry Hal Sleeterman, 76, of Minnesota, was charged on Friday with one count of theft of major artwork and one count of witness tampering, according to court records that were released on Sunday. He did not enter a plea when he appeared in the U.S. District Court in St. Paul on Friday. According to the indictment, between August 2005 and July 2018, Mr. Sleeterman received, concealed, and disposed of an object of cultural heritage, referring, of course, to the ruby slippers, which the indictment says he knew were stolen. He was photographed leaving the courthouse in a wheelchair carrying a portable breathing machine. His next court appearance had not been scheduled as of Monday afternoon. It was unclear whether any other arrests in connection with the theft were expected. John Brink, a lawyer for Mr. Sleeterman, said on Monday that he plans to plead not guilty. He's done nothing wrong, says the lawyer. Alright, so we have another man that's now been charged with the theft of the ruby slippers. And this one is most likely the one that Terry John Martin, the one who actually broke into the museum, gave the slippers to. And this is the mysterious person that those previous articles didn't name. Well, now we know who it is. Now, for those that are going to say that maybe they got the wrong person, maybe this name is just coming out of nowhere and he's just pointing the finger at someone else. Well, this man also has a record. It was unclear whether the authorities were contending that Mr. Sleeterman had solicited Mr. Martin to steal the ruby slippers. Public records show that Mr. Sleeterman had a lengthy criminal history, with previous charges of fraud, theft, and shoplifting. So he's not exactly a role model. We'll put it that way. He was previously sentenced to 10 years in prison in April 1988 after he pleaded guilty to conspiracy to defraud the federal government and credit card fraud, the Star Tribune in Minneapolis reported at the time. Mr. Sleeterman was one of two people who had been part of a sophisticated fencing ring that traded in expensive furs, artworks, and sports cars, the newspapers reported. So, not exactly a model citizen, by any means. And after that article came out, there is a further article that came out that gives us more details on exactly how he stored the ruby slippers. Warrant: stolen ruby slippers were buried in suspect's backyard for 7 years. A woman who ties to an organized retail theft ring has told federal investigators that Jerry Hal Sleeterman, the second man accused of stealing ruby slippers worn by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz, had the famous shoes buried in his backyard for at least 7 years. The unnamed woman, who is described as a corporate defendant, saw the slippers in a grocery bag, according to court documents. Instead of anonymously returning them, like she said she asked, they were put in a clear plastic container, with a white lid and buried near a shed on the south side of Sleeterman's lawn in Crystal. They were treated in an ultraviolet sanitizer cabinet, the woman told authorities, to remove traces of DNA. So, yeah, they knew they were stolen. Like, let's get that one out of the way. He knew. She knew. It is interesting how long, like, some of these things happened, and it kind of makes you wonder exactly how long did it take for them to get into a bin? Was that back in 2005, or was that more recent? That's something we don't know. But we will find out at some point, sooner than later, because he is scheduled for a jury trial that starts May 20th in Minneapolis. And it kind of gets better, because if you think that the ruby slippers were the only thing that he had in his possession, you are unfortunately wrong. So, according to court documents, when the FBI searched his home in 2023, he did not deny there were stolen goods on his property, only that they weren't recently stolen. 'Cause that obviously makes it better. Somehow. I haven't done nothing for years, he reportedly told investigators. Federal investigators gave the Crystal Police Department photographs of an area beneath Sleeterman's staircase blocked off with a padlocked fence door. Among the items visible in the enclosure were a Nikon camera still in the box, and lots of other stuff. And there was even more. Original artwork, candelabras, and other goods were recovered from a storage shed. And there's still more. The FBI also found an estimated $30,000 in cash bound with rubber bands and stored in disposable food containers wrapped with tin foil. Also discovered, yeah, it keeps going, booster coats, apparel with additional large hidden pockets for ease of shoplifting. So, the dude steals. That's obvious. Anyways, it will be interesting to see how this develops and whether he will continue to plead not guilty. And the final article that we'll be looking at on a happier note is exactly what is going to happen to the ruby slippers once the FBI are done with them. During a recent private ceremony at the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, collector Michael Shaw was reunited with his pair of ruby slippers stolen from the museum in the summer of 2005. It's like welcoming back an old friend I haven't seen in years, said the teary-eyed Shaw as he stood beside the slippers and the federal agents and local authorities who spent almost 2 decades tracking down the Technicolor treasures from 1939's beloved The Wizard of Oz. And if you'd actually like to see this moment, it actually was filmed. I will leave a link down below to that video. It's really cool to see that moment. So the slippers will be returned to Michael Shaw, and after Michael has them, they will then go on tour. So you might be able to see the stolen ruby slippers if they are in your city. And after that, the ruby slippers will be auctioned off. Yeah, this will be very interesting to see as far as how much the slippers will be sold for. While they're not in perfect condition, they're definitely in very good condition considering the circumstances that they were in over the past 20 years. But it will be very interesting considering this particular pair now has an incredibly interesting and intriguing story associated with them. Obviously, it's a story that happened after they were used in the movie, so It will be interesting to see how much these shoes sell for. And that's all the updates that I've got on the stolen ruby slippers. There will, of course, be more once the trial starts in May. But until then, it's nice to know that the ruby slippers have found their way back home to the original collector that owned them. And if you liked that video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe. New videos are posted every 2 weeks on the 15th and last day of each month. And if that doesn't satisfy your appetite for Oz, follow the link in the description to ozclub.org and join the International Wizard of Oz Club. Until next time, bye y'all.